So today I found a video that I would like to review with you. This video was recorded exactly in the 1940s, and it features an interview with a former Confederate veteran by the name of Julius Franklin Howell. Now, I'll tell you more about him, I'll give you all the context, but the reason why I put the title that I did, and I swear it's not clickbait, I have to beep a few of the words that he uses. Why is that? Here's the thing. The video is from the 1940s. The guy is from the 1840s. Yes, he was over 100 years old when he made this recording. And of course, over almost 2 centuries of distance from when he was born and from when we live now, certain words have changed. And the acceptance of those words and their position within a social dynamics from a linguistic perspective has shifted dramatically. Now, I don't want to speak too much now. I kind of want to give him the floor. We'll listen to him uninterrupted for about a minute. Then I'll pause and I'll begin some reflections, because today I want to review some of the vocabulary that he's using and discuss the phenomenon from a linguistic perspective. Why do some words become offensive over time? Let's go.
I was born on the 17th day of January, 1846. I go back as far as way along in the early 50s. My first recollection of public living, and especially political living, as I may call it, was when I learned as a boy of 9 or 10 that my home was in the state of Virginia. I didn't know about states before that time. Then time passed pretty rapidly because I was attending high school, and I remember distinctly the occasion when John Brown, the poor man, sought freedom for the slaves. He's there in my state. I heard about it pretty distinctly. I felt sorry, and yet sympathizing with my elders, I felt some resentment.
Okay, so we are 1 minute in. He still hasn't used any of the words. Although then again, I mean, these days, even the word slave is starting to become a little problematic. And again, whether you agree with the shifting of some words within the social space or not, that's your opinion, and I respect that, whatever that may be. It's interesting to see that it is a linguistic phenomenon that does happen. So let's begin with some information on the man that we are listening to before we continue. So we are currently listening to, as we said, Julius Franklin Howell, and we can see there is a whole page. I'll put a link in the description if you want to read more. As he himself told us, this all checks out, because again, the guy is over 100 years old. So this is when he was born, 1846, in the state of Virginia. But the interesting part is his involvement with the military, because due to the fact of the era that we are talking about, this becomes quite interesting. So we are told that Julius Franklin Howell, 24th Virginia Cavalry Company K. Howell, was born January 17th, 1846. He enlisted at the age of 15. Now, this actually may be wrong if we are to believe what he tells us in the interview, as you'll see. So pencil this one in the Confederate Army. He served as a courier of the Staff of General blah, blah, blah. He was captured 3 days before the surrender at Appomattox. I don't know if I'm reading it right. Spent 3 months at a Union prison, and he was discharged as a corporal at Fort Monroe. So I believe this was his actual military title. And for those who don't know, a corporal would be a low-ranking, non-commissioned officer in the armed forces, and says in particular in the U.S. Army, an NCO ranking above private first class and below sergeant. And apparently there is a difference if we are dealing with the U.S. Marine Corps, which we're not. Okay, let's continue.
Now, while some in my section, Southeast Virginia, I knew of some brutality, as I call it, exercised toward some of the slaves, as a whole, the got along very well. Now, my father's, why I associated with them, that being the baby of the family, I didn't have any white children for associates. Therefore, I played around with children. 4 years passed by. Then came up the great struggle when the Republican Party had become a power in the land. In 1860, Mr. Lincoln was elected, as you know. And I remember that there was a good deal of excitement in my section, that the slavery would be interfered with, should be set free and all that. Well, I didn't feel much interest about it because I felt kindly toward the dockers, and they were kindly toward me and toward my family. Now, I was attending school, as I said, and when in the spring...
Okay, so now we move into the other section. So this was the section where you could tell I had to censor quite a lot of words because unfortunately, even though it's not guaranteed that it would cause me some trouble, but I don't want to risk the channel, if you know what I mean, or getting the video demonetized or anything like that. I would like to now jump into how certain words become offensive and even unspeakable in certain contexts and in certain languages, and how this is not a one-to-one with every language. I'll give you more details on this last one later. But the only one opinion that I wanted to share with you before we jump into the linguistic analysis and the history of linguistics is to say this. Whatever we think of the word that he's using now, in our day and age, the way he was using it was not racist or derogatory in any way, shape or form, because we could see through the context and the rest of the words that if anything, he appears to be quite open-minded compared to other people. Hello, what you looking at? As you know, we have created a Metatron plushie for all of our fans and supporters, and we are really trying to hit 200 sales. We are 79% funded, and we have to hit 200 to be able to ensure the production. If you watching this right now were to get a plushie, we would hit 160, and then we would only be 40 short of ensuring production. If you like my content, please consider supporting me by getting a plushie today. Thank you so much. Also, I would like to add that I'm not even sure that the subtitles are picking it up correctly. Sometimes it does sound like he says the N-E-G-R-O, but other times it sounds like he's using the N-word. Once again, to be contextualized in the period, of course. Now, the linguistic phenomenon that I'm trying to discuss here is often referred to as pejoration or semantic drift due to social re-evaluation. Essentially, words that were once neutral or acceptable and even formal can become offensive over time to a given population cluster or a subgroup of that population cluster due to what are called shifts in societal attitudes and historical context. And the reason why I think this is a fascinating topic is because it sits at that intersection between linguistics, sociology, and cultural history. The word that he's using in this context, N-E-G-R-O, was once a standard formal term in English, used even by civil rights leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr., just to give an example. However, the historical context is important in this case to try and understand the way he is using it, because remember, intent before the word in isolation is the real way by which we should judge any sort of vocabulary that is used whenever the conditions thereof are in fact ambiguous, and we don't know for sure that these words are being used as a pejorative or insulting term. The word which we'll refer to as N secondary word is generally frowned upon and mostly unused today. There are some exceptions within historiography, particularly because there are, for example, specific entities that do have that name, legal entities. And if you're speaking about leagues or groups or associations that do contain the word in their name, then it's absolutely fine to use it because you're reading the name of the legal entity in question.